Amy, let me tell you about a magical place that is so exactly designed to be enclosed space, year-round fun for the whole family that I bet you already know what I'm going to say before I even say the name. Let's say it together on 3. 1, 2, 3. Great Wolf Lodge. You got it, Amy.
My kids loved Great Wolf Lodge when we went. You probably already know that it has a huge indoor water park with a wave pool, lazy river, a bunch of massive water slides. But then your pack can hit the other attractions because, wait, there's more.
Great Wolf Lodge has adventure-packed attractions like Magi Quest, a live-action game kids can play throughout the lodge, plus the Northern Lights Arcade. Spent some quality time there, so your kid who loves the lazy river and your kid who loves fantasy games will both have a great time.
Great Wolf Lodge also offers great dining options and complimentary daily events like nightly dance parties, all under one roof. Unpack the car once and you're settled in to have fun. And with 22 lodges across the country, you're always a short drive away from adventure.
We've both had such great times at Great Wolf Lodge, so bring your pack together at a lodge near you. Learn more at greatwolf.com and strengthen the pack. I'm scarier than I think I am.
What fresh hell?
Laughing in the face of motherhood.
It's better that he did that than sent you home thinking vampires are real and they lived on the street.
With Margaret Abels
and Amy Wilson.
I just want to stay on the couch with my cocktail. Stop touching your brother.
A podcast that solves today's parenting dilemmas
so you don't have to.
5 minutes before we have to leave, and everybody has 20 minutes of things left to do before we leave.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to What Fresh Hell, Laughing in the Face of Motherhood. This is Margaret.
And this is Amy. Today we're talking about how to yell less.
Gee, could I use this for the entirety of my life? I'm a yeller, Amy. I'm a yeller.
So am I, or I have been. It gets easier as your kids get older. You're not always living at that level of frantic. But I think we should talk about how to yell less, because how to never yell or lose your temper is not really an achievable goal.
Yeah, I feel like there are people who do the kind of like gentle parenting who would argue that yelling never is somehow an achievable goal. But I mean, that ship has sailed for me. I have a high temperament and I am a yeller, and I have a lot of thoughts about yelling.
Me too. I'm going to come in kind of hot on this one, maybe even a little controversial, but I have receipts because I think I want to define what yelling is, because I'm going to quote Emily Edlin here. She's a clinical psychologist. She's been on our podcast, as everybody has at this point.
If they haven't been on our podcast, it's like you're not a real actor in New York City if you haven't played a dead body on Law & Order. And you're not a real parenting expert if you haven't been on our podcast. I'm sorry.
That's well said. So Emily Edlin, we'll link to her fresh take. She talked about autonomy, creating autonomous kids. And she says, I figured this out first. I want to give myself credit. I was like, I think we're getting this wrong. And then I did find receipts from Emily Edlin. So it's not just me thinking in this. But she says, the way that we describe yelling when we talk about it in parenting circles does not define the behavior consistently. When you want to study a behavior in behavioral science, says Emily Edlin, you have to start with a solid definition or the results don't mean much. So I think the problem is, when it comes to yelling, is that we say that yelling, there is nobody, including me, who's going to argue that yelling is better than not yelling. I mean, I think it's like the goal is to yell less, of course. But when we say that all yelling is equally toxic and bad, we're lumping some very different things together. Like, put your shoes on. How many times do I have to tell you to put your shoes on is very different from...
You little idiot. You should have never been born.
Yes. And there's a study, as we like to discover. We see a study that supposedly says one thing and then you scratch it, a little scratch and sniff, and that's not what the study said at all. So there was a study, 2014, Journal of Childhood Development. And this study has been trumpeted everywhere, saying that yelling produces the same results as physical punishment in children. That striking a child and yelling at them is literally the same thing, and it causes the same levels of anxiety, stress, and depression 10 years later. That's how they're measuring it.
Frightening and scary.
Very frightening if true. And a lot of us are like, oh my God, if yelling at my child is like that bad for them. But what the study actually studied was not yelling. It examined reciprocal relations between maternal and paternal harsh verbal discipline. and adolescents' depressive symptoms a decade later. So it didn't measure how often they raised their voices. It measured harsh verbal discipline. And wouldn't you agree that that and yelling, they can go together, but they don't have to go together at all?
Yes, I would agree.
And so I think that we need to give ourselves, starting from the point of like, okay, we're going to yell less because for reasons we'll get into that it's not that useful anyway or effective anyway. But leave aside that every time you do it, you need to put on the hair shirt and give yourself 100 lashes because it was exactly the same as, yeah.
No, I agree with that. I definitely agree with that. And I do think on the flip side for myself, of the things I think about the things that I do wrong as a parent and the things that I've really tried to examine as a parent and be better about as a parent, for me, I used to be very hard on myself about how I fed my kids, and now my kids kind of eat anything, and I'm like, oh, I shouldn't have worried about that. But for me, I would say my number one, if I were to list, and this sounds harsh, but I'm just going to say it because it explains it, like my number one failure that I see as myself as a parent is that I yell too much. And I think that it took me a long time to realize, both with my spouse and with my children, that I'm scarier than I think I am. That I often am like, oh my God, could you get in the car? And then my kids seem upset. And I kind of think, but it's just me. I'm just upset.
Right.
Well, of course I'm upset. The three of you all spilled ice cream at the same time in the new van or whatever it is. But that I forget, I have a story from my childhood that I was in a haunted house and I was notoriously frightened of haunted houses. And the other thing I was scared the most of in the world was lightning. And so we were in this haunted house in our town that someone had made. It was like a kind of old mansion and they turned it into a haunted house. And a vampire was coming out of a room filled with lightning. And I was screaming like eyes roll back in my head.
How old are you?
Oh, probably like 6 or 7 maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And the vampire like leaned down and was like, it's just me, Mr. Callaghan. It was our neighbor who was playing the vampire. And it did nothing to alleviate my fear of the vampire. I was like, the fact that it was my neighbor pretending to be a vampire did not make it any better. And I think of that as the metaphor for the experience of a child whose parent is yelling at them. It's scary and overwhelming. And I think, guys, you know me. I'm not really that mad. I'm clearly just frustrated that you did X, Y, or Z, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that I take my teeth out and I'm like, it's just Mr. Kelly.
Yeah, that's right. Right. It's better to do that than not to do that. It's better that he did that than sent you home thinking vampires are real and they lived on the street.
Probably, yes.
But on the whole, right, maybe don't. I have this in my relationship too, that my spouse will say, stop yelling at me. I'm like, I'm not yelling. Am I probably expressing some frustration? But we can't always see accurately how we come across. We're delivering messages. You know what this brings me back to? Clever Hans. Never thought I'd reincorporate Clever Hans, but Clever Hans was the horse who could do math.
Right. Clever Hans, the counting horse.
He could count up. We talked about him a couple weeks ago. He somehow knew math and nobody knew how. And it was because if you said, Clever Hans, what's 6 + 2? And it would start to paw what the people, the questioners, were delivering to the horse without meaning to, without realizing they were doing it, was raising of the eyebrows and other facial indicators that you were getting towards the right answer. So if a horse is that good at reading positive facial expressions, it makes sense that our kids can see in our negative facial expressions and perhaps intensified non-yelling yells, something that we're not necessarily even intending. Like, I'm really annoyed right now, but that can be perceived as aggressive.
Well, I teach a class actually called personal presentation. It's like a speech class. And when I'm teaching the class, we do an exercise called Mr. Personality. And the exercise is one person goes out of the room and you give them adjective, Mr. and Ms. Personality, it could be. And your adjective is, let's say, depressed.
So everybody knows except you. The audience knows that you're Mr. Depressed, but you don't know you're Mr. Depressed?
The opposite. You know you're Mr. Depressed, but the audience doesn't. And you come back in and the audience asks you questions and they're trying to figure out what your word is. And it's such an interesting exercise in the way that people present themselves because they think they're acting depressed and people are like angry. And it's just like your default body posture is so strong or relaxed. And your default, it's very hard to work against your default body posture to get a different emotion through. And I think that especially when I was first having 3 little kids at the same time and doing a lot of yelling, I think that my default personality might have been like Ms. Like I'm
picturing those like characters, the round
Little Miss Screamy.
They're just circles. Yeah, Little Miss Screamy. There's a book about
the
you.
Little Miss books. Yeah. And I feel like I did too much yelling. I still do too much yelling.
So Carla Naumberg, who has also been on our show.
Who we've also had on the podcast.
Yeah, she's a repeat guest. She's like Alec Baldwin in Saturday Night Live. Yeah, she gets the special jacket. She wrote a book called How to Stop Losing Your Stuff with Your Kids. Use a different word besides stuff. And so she divided this yelling thing into 2 things. Toxic explosions, which I think is what we're talking about, what this study is talking about. Like, yeah, your kid is going to be depressed 10 years later if they grew up in a house with toxic explosions. Nobody wants to do that. We're all doing our best. Let's not do that. But then she talks about what she calls unpredictable and disproportionate reactions. And that those aren't awesome either, right? Where you're not a bad person, but they're not awesome.
I'm not toxic, but I'm unproportional.
Yeah, yeah.
And I also think, to be fair, a lot of times the other people don't see the proportion. You know what I mean? I find myself saying to my kids, I know you don't love it when I'm yelling, but I have asked you 4 times in a normal voice. And so one of the tricks, we won't get into solutions, I found is trying to say, can you get to the table? Can you get to the table? This is the 2nd time I'm asking you. Can you get to the table? This is the 3rd time I'm asking you. Like trying to give a little vision into why does mom yell all the time? It's like, well, I asked you nicely 40 other times.
Right. And that's true. And there are times, right, when you do yell, there are times you yell and it certainly is cathartic for you. And there are times when they really need to hear it. Like, I don't do this anymore, but I did when my kids were little and all 3 of them were in the back seat, squabbling in their car seats, sometimes yelling, right? Lots of yelling going on in the car. And I'm like merging onto the West Side Highway and it's raining, right? And I'm like, stop yelling, stop it. I am driving. You can't do this while I'm driving. And like a little bit of shocked silence from the back seat is gratifying, but it was certainly an unpredictable and disproportionate reaction from where they're sitting in the back seat. They're not merging onto the highway in the rain. They don't understand that driving's dangerous. You know what I mean? It's still perceived by them as like, what?
But I'm also going to argue pretty strongly that it worked, right? It works.
But yelling doesn't work when you yell too often. And so we'll talk about that. Like, what are all the reasons that yelling is not particularly effective anyway? Because unfortunately, it isn't for 10 reasons, even if it can feel really cathartic in the moment while you're doing it. And sometimes, yes, you deserve to let off steam. You don't have to be a saint, but it doesn't necessarily get you closer to what you want or the behavior you want your kids to.
I mean, I definitely believe that. I never get in bed at night and think, I wish I had yelled more today. That is never a thought. I did when I was younger and had younger kids. I would occasionally say, oh, I have the yelling flu, which meant I was like hoarse and tired from yelling so much. And I don't really mean, I wasn't screaming at the top of my lungs at my kids all day. It was kind of, it just felt, I think that the volume of our whole lives was at that pitch. Watch out, be careful, go, you can do whatever. It just felt like our whole lives kind of existed at that pitch, which I think in some ways, I know from studies that they talk about what is really difficult and causes PTSD is environments where there's a lot of violence or like bombs are coming in or whatever is going on.
Unpredictability, right.
That the reality of that situation is that it's just calm and then explosions and then calm and then explosions. And that it's the unknowing of when it's coming next. It's the uncertainty of what's going to happen during the explosion. The explosion is going to be scary. You don't know when it's coming. And that state is one of the hardest human states for anybody to exist in. And certainly, I'm not making a straight comparison between yelling and being bombed, but I think the vibe of there's an explosive person in the house and I don't know what's going to set them off it's very understandable why that's damaging for kids.
Yeah, not something that you want to raise your kids within. And I would argue that life with little kids is really stressful all the time. And you can start to feel like, I just saw something on Instagram of a mom going out into her backyard and just face planting into the grass. It's like touching grass to remember that I'm not being chased by a lion. I'm just trying to get 3 kids on the school bus. And like, that's it, that we live in this sort of bath of constant low grade stress, and maybe that's what we need to focus on instead of like bad person, you yelled 4 times today and you should have yelled 0. Let's talk about how to like dial down the stress.
All right, let's take a break, and when we come back, let's talk about why yelling happens, Amy.
Hellions, it's time for some spring cleaning, and I don't just mean the coat closets. Doing your financial spring cleaning can actually be super easy when you let Monarch do your financial spring cleaning for you. One dashboard that gets your entire financial life organized. No more clutter, no more mess, no more logins scattered everywhere, just accounts, investments, property, and more, all in one place. Get your first year of Monarch for half off, just $50 with promo code FRESH. Monarch allows you to look not only at what you've already spent, but also to plan for the future. With Monarch, you can set savings goals, plan for big purchases, and notice spending trends before they become a problem. I can generate cash flow reports that show me what we spent this quarter, this month, what we're probably going to spend next month, and feel prepared, organized, and knowing how to plan for the future. No more surprises and a lot more clarity. Try Monarch. Use code FRESH at monarch.com to get your first year half off at just $50. That's 50% off your first year at monarch.com with code FRESH. My favorite skincare products actually feel more like self-care, like they're so nice to put on and they smell so good that I'm actually happy when I get to that part of my day. And I swear that is how I feel about Osea's anti-aging body balm.
Amy, you are usually the lotions and potions queen on this podcast, but I have to say, hard agree.
Osea's anti-aging body balm is a liquid silk body balm that combines the lasting hydration of a lotion with the firming power of a serum, leaving skin smoother and firmer.
This body balm is clinically tested and designed to deliver visible results you can see and feel.
So we've gotten to use this product for a couple of months now, and I swear I have really noticed firmer and smoother skin, like on the back of my hands. It's like getting a mini spa treatment from head to toe.
Get a spring-worthy glow with clean, clinically tested skincare from Osea. And right now, we have a special discount just for our listeners.
Get 10% off your first order site-wide with code FRESH at OseaMalibu.com.
That's 10% off your first order with code FRESH at OSEAMalibu.com.
You know that thing where you get an amazing pair of shoes at a really great price and want to tell everyone about it? Yeah, so do we. Here at Designer Shoe Warehouse, we'll give you something to brag about, like the latest styles from brands you love, or the trends everyone's obsessing over, or shoes that make you feel like, well, you. So go ahead, show off a little. Find shoes that get you at prices that get your budget. Head to your DSW store or DSW.com today. DSW, let us surprise you.
Well, good news, everyone. Yelling is a biological imperative. I mean, we yell to get attention. Babies cry to get our attention.
We never did get a biological imperative theme, but we should have.
Yeah, that we're hardwired to push people's buttons when we want a reaction from them. And yelling can work when there's a bear chasing you or when there's a bear chasing your friend and they don't know yet. Yelling is extremely effective when you're about to get in an accident because you can't think because your kids are yelling. Yelling might be the thing you need to do in that moment, but we over-apply it and it becomes remarkably ineffective.
I had a pediatrician tell me when my children were young, and this sticks with me to this day. Child's favorite toy is a Jack-in-the-Box. Wind it up and you don't know when, but it's going to pop. That is a child's interaction with the world to a certain point, and British people say, don't wind me up, like winding you up. It's like you're winding up a Jack-in-the-Box to watch them pop, you know?
Right. But you are the Jack-in-the-Box and the kid is doing the winding. And that
you are the Jack-in-the-Box.
You're being manipulated by the kid. Right.
The only thing you can control is not being the Jack-in-the-Box because, I mean, I now have high schoolers who I am constantly trying to say, if you ignored some of the behavior that is annoying you, they would do it less. Kids who are bothering you, and because they know if they come over and say this phrase to you, you're going to explode and yell at them. That's why they're doing, you know, it's like they're literally winding you up.
Mm-hmm. Well, Alan Kasdan, he's a child psychiatrist at the Yale Child Study Center, and he says about yelling, if the goal of the parent is catharsis, like I said before, that I want to get this out of my system and I want to show you how mad I am, yelling is definitely the way to go. It's the best way to show everybody how mad you are.
Yes.
But if your goal is to change something the child is doing or get the child to start doing something else, yelling is not the best way to achieve those ends. It doesn't serve the purpose.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. And I definitely get a little tweet with like, let's work this out together. Tell me why you're so frustrated. I'm definitely so hardwired as like an Irish immigrant mom that's like, I just hit you with a spoon and keep making my dinner, you know? By the way, I don't hit my children with spoons. Don't write to me. But I do think that if you find yourself in the cycle of yelling, the jack-in-the-box cycle, it is definitely worth, in calmer times, investigating what is underneath that.
I agree with that, because when you think about it, when you yell about something, if you really think about the times that set you off, I would argue you're probably not yelling all day long about everything. You tend to yell about the same things, and they are the things that make you yell because you have to keep saying them, right? And that is worth circling. For me, back in the day, we are late for the bus, that was the yelling time, right? 5 minutes before we have to leave, and everybody has 20 minutes of things left to do before we leave.
And every day, right?
Why are we doing this every day, right? And you're bringing all of that frustration and very well-earned frustration and concern, and you don't want to have to drive them again because you missed the bus. You're right. You're right to be frustrated and annoyed. You're right that this is stressful. But if you're yelling about that same thing, the thing you have to fix is not that you yell. You have to fix the thing. You have to fix the situation, right? Which I have told this story before in different contexts, but it really helped for me. The reason that it was hard for us to get out the door in the morning is that my 3 kids would go upstairs to brush their teeth after having breakfast. And who knew what we know, like new continents were formed while they were upstairs doing whatever. And then I'd be yelling for them to come down, hurry up. And then at least one of them would come down not having brushed their teeth or gotten their socks. They didn't even do the things they went upstairs to do. The frustration about that was through the roof. The fix was not me yelling more. The fix was getting downstairs toothbrushes and putting toothpaste and toothbrushes both upstairs and downstairs. So nobody had to go upstairs to brush their teeth anymore. And the thing that took 15 minutes all of a sudden took 2 minutes, and we started leaving for school on time. Was it a forever fix? No. But feeling bad about myself wasn't the way to stop yelling in the morning. It was to fix the reason it was stressful.
Yeah. And I think that this is the reigning piece of advice. Someone told me when I was pregnant, and I must have said it 10,000 times since then, but it applies to your example, which is the phrase is saying no means standing up. When you try to parent from the couch, which is extremely understandable, but it's something my husband and I would say to each other all the time, that the 2 boys are starting to wrestle and they're, kind of maybe having fun, but there's a sharp corner and you pretty much know it's going to end in tears or an ER visit. And you've just sat down with your bowl of chili that you've been looking forward to for an hour, and you want to just start screaming, cut it out, cut it out, cut it out. And they're having fun, so they're ignoring you. That this, I think, cuts down for me on a huge percentage of yelling. And it's the upstairs, downstairs thing too. We have an upstairs and we have a basement where the kids play video games. And the way our house is designed is extremely annoying for reasons I won't get into here. I'm going to start a whole architecture podcast to talk about how annoyingly designed my house is. But the kids are off to the sides and upstairs. So from where I stand downstairs, I can scream at the top of my lungs and they can't really hear me.
They can't hear you.
Cannot. No, it's they're kind of far
okay.
in their corners. And now my kids all like music. So they have music playing in the rooms and whatever else is going on. But now I find a lot of my yelling is screaming upstairs, it's dinner time. And we really did at some point put walkie-talkies in people's rooms so that I just call them on the walkie-talkie, because it's just that kind of, where are you? We're supposed to be leaving. And sometimes they're like, what are you so mad about? It's just dinner. I'm like, I have been calling you for 45 seconds at increasingly loud volumes. And I think, what is causing this yelling? And I think you see it so much at Thanksgiving, holidays, family gatherings. 10 different people are yelling different instructions to the kids, or yelling at them. Look at the toy you got. It's just the yelling of, I just want to stay on the couch with my cocktail. Stop touching your brother. Whatever it is. I'm comfortable where I am. So I'll just scream loud enough that you stop doing it, as opposed to standing up and just separating the two of you.
It's such a good point, and it sort of undercuts what we were saying in the first part about like every time you yell at your children, you are ruining their future, right? That when you're all in the room and stop touching your brother, that sort of hollering that happens, nobody would argue that that's a better way to live than peace and harmony. But there's no world in which your kid does anything but happily ignore that. And that's the problem with yelling, right? Is that the more you yell, the more you need to yell, because your kids can get pretty good at tuning it out. Like your kids finally like, what? What are you yelling about? But they could ignore the first 40 seconds pretty well. It used to drive me nuts. Like if you hear me yelling up the steps and it's after 6 p.m., it's dinner time. Like that's why I'm calling you. Stop pretending you don't hear me.
Put it together, people.
Right. And stop making me come up the stairs to get you every night. Like, why do you think I'm calling you?
It's a new day. You're what?
Yeah.
I know. I do. We do have the rule now. If you hear your voice, you step out of your room. If you're in the basement, you step to the top of the stairs.
That's good.
Like, that's the rule, because I'm not going to have screaming conversations up and down the stairs.
Right. And maybe involving your kids in like, let's not do this, right? This isn't fun for anybody, so let's do this. But the more you yell, the more you need to yell. And it's because they know that it's just part of it, and they don't have to listen until you really yell. Like they know you're kind of mean at yell, and you're now I'm really mad yell, and they can just wait. They can just wait it out.
And to be fair to kids, and I do think about this sometimes, let's say it's like 6 o'clock at night. I'm cold. I decide I'm going to just sit in my rocking chair that's in my room, pull my blanket on top of me, put my feet on my little footsie rest that's just the right size, open my Kindle, and like have some me time. Someone then screams my name. I'm like, what? I'm not jumping to my feet and being like, yes, Captain, what is it? I'm stand at the ready. And I do think that kids are so out of control with their lives that I can sometimes identify with the fact that whatever they're doing, they're like, often I yell upstairs, what are you doing? And they say, petting the cat. And it's like, okay, they're just laying on the floor petting the cat. I guess I wouldn't want someone shrieking to me, come get these shoes off the dining room table, or whatever it is.
Right. Well, the studies do seem to show that kids who get yelled at more yell at each other more. It's just sort of a model behavior thing. And you can have a yelly house, which again is just, it's better not to have one, I think.
I'm going to just push back to say that the set point volume of different houses is always very different.
That's true.
And I think that you made a distinction, hollering versus yelling. Let's use those two terms.
Yes, hollering. Right, hollering is we are going to be late. We're going to be
hollering
late.
is like, tell your brother to come in. It's dinner time.
Right,
you know.
Right.
That was, I don't know what accent I was trying to do there, but like,
who is that? What kind of family is that?
But I do think about being in like big, crazy. This is what I call the hollow from Harry Potter, like the Weasley's house. Like, It just feels like there's like flying chickens at some points, and like everyone's kind of at a loud volume, but it feels very loving and safe. And hey, girls, come down, help with the gravy. You, da-da-da. Whatever it is, that kind of loud volume of a house is a lot of hollering. And I think existing at that volume of, I mean, I worked in a lot of kitchens in my life. My family's in the restaurant business, and I waited tables for a long time. And that kitchen vibe of like, get in here, you got to pick up. That is just a volume that I feel very comfortable at. Like a lot of hollering, I'm fine with.
Yeah. I have two thoughts on that. The difference is that there's no frustration behind it, or little frustration, or loving frustration. Like, how many times I have to tell you, get to take the garbage out. That's loving, mild frustration. And it's also, we're arguing in these houses, it's constant. It's not unpredictable. That's how they roll. so it doesn't feel unsafe.
Right. It's always at that volume. And I think there's certainly people, it's always funny when you get married and stuff, and it's like, whoa, we do things really different. Even we were Irish growing up, we had one set of Italian cousins, and they were like, they just lived at a completely different volume than our house, you know? And I think you're right. Yelling is frustration and anger behind it. Hollering is kind of maybe mild frustration, but mostly like good-natured, high volume.
Yeah.
Even if it's a little bit like, you forgot your burger, you idiot, for table 24. But it's not, it doesn't have that toxicity and that anger behind it that makes it scary. Let's take a break. We're going to come back and focus on advice and solutions. Amy, when I'm having a good hair day, it usually makes my whole day better. And that's why on every day, I'm taking Nutrafol.
Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist-recommended hair growth supplement brand. And it's the #1 hair growth supplement brand personally used by dermatologists. Nutrafol's hair growth supplements are peer-reviewed, NSF certified for sport, and clinically tested.
Nutrafol offers multiple formulas for men and women tailored to different life stages and lifestyle factors, so you get support that's actually right for you. Adding Nutrafol to your daily routine is easy. Order online, no prescription needed, with automated deliveries and free shipping to keep you on track.
Let your hair be one less thing to worry about. See visibly thicker, stronger, faster-growing hair in 3 to 6 months with Nutrafol.
For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering our listeners $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you visit Nutrafol.com and enter promo code LAUGHING.
That's Nutrafol.com, spelled Nutrafol.com, promo code LAUGHING.
All my kids learned to swim when they were little. It was super important to me that they be confident and safe in the water. There was only one problem with that: taking them to swim lessons. I mean, the pools were freezing. There were always cranky adults doing laps right there. And it was definitely not, for any of us, what you would call fun.
Amy, heard. But now there's Goldfish Swim School. Goldfish takes a really thoughtful approach to swim lessons, combining research-based teaching with a warm, kid-friendly environment that actually helps kids thrive in the water.
Every detail at Goldfish is thoughtfully designed to create a golden experience, from shiver-free, warm indoor pools to comfy waiting areas for parents to professionally trained lifeguards on deck.
Goldfish uses an approach called the science of swim play, which combines guided play with proven teaching techniques to help kids learn to swim, build water safety skills, and gain confidence, all at their own pace. Lessons are designed to meet kids exactly where they're at.
If you've been thinking about swim lessons or just wondering where to start, this is a great opportunity. Right now, Goldfish Swim School is offering a waived membership plus your child's first lesson free at participating locations.
Just visit goldfishswimschool.com/free to find a location near you and enroll using promo code FREE.
That's goldfishswimschool.com/free, promo code FREE.
Your guide to mom yelling from the What Fresh Hell podcast. The gritted teeth, I'm not yelling yell.
We will talk about it when we get home and away from all these other people who are looking at us in the grocery store.
The yells your mom used to yell and you never thought you'd yell.
Because I said so, that's why.
The I'm not yelling, just speaking very loud for emphasis yell.
These clothes are clean. Clean clothes do not belong in the laundry. Clothes that have been worn for less than 5 minutes are clean. Clean.
The I'm just going to keep yelling names until I get to yours yell.
Emma, Sophia, Catherine, you, youngest daughter, Sydney. That's right, you're in trouble.
The company's here, so I can't yell, but you know this would be a yell if it could be a yell.
Gosh, honey, I'm surprised you don't remember that I prefer that you don't put your shoes on the sofa.
The I've lost my train of thought yell.
I need everyone to get off their iPads. Dinner is in 5 minutes. Don't come down until you finish your homework. And is lacrosse practice tonight or Thursday? Where's my phone?
The repeating yell.
Get your shoes, we're late, get your shoes, you need shoes, we're very late, shoes, come on, we're late, get your shoes, get your shoes.
The I'm not going to curse in front of my children yell.
Budgie the Whale, Godzilla, dam breaking, Shazam it all.
The things I I never thought I'd yell.
Mom's underwear is not a hat. Don't taunt that lizard. You have to wear shoes outside when it's snowing. Yes, every time. Your penis should never be out during church.
So I have a friend, Elizabeth Robinson. She is a dog trainer. And it is one of like my top 3 pieces of parenting advice. And it's funny because she's not a parent, she's a dog trainer, but she was training my dog Marshmallow when she was a puppy with my little kids around. Marshy's still with us, even though my kids aren't little. Marshy's old too. She's 12, so that's like 84, right? She's old.
Elderly.
Pretty well trained. And my kids were all very eager when we first got her. And they'd be like, sit, Marshmallow, sit, Marshmallow, sit, that kind of thing. And she's like, we're not going to do that. We don't do that because when you say, Marshmallow, sit, Marshmallow, sit, she thinks that's the command. And she's going to wait until you've said it 10 times because you've taught her that that's how it goes. That you say it 10 times and then she obeys. So what you need to do is you need to say it once. And then I want you to count to 10 or whatever she said to my kids. And of course, dogs do this. I mean, I do know this now as a dog owner. Sometimes you think they haven't heard you. You say something. If you just wait long enough, they will react. They'll do it, but they don't react as quickly as we do.
Well, they also have the clever hands thing where they're looking at you like, are you serious?
Yes. Yeah. Do you mean, mommy means yes. I think about this every day, even as I fall short on it over and over again. If you teach your kids, we have to go. Where are you? Come on, put your shoes on. If that's like part of your morning routine that mom yells for 10 minutes and then she really yells and then we leave, then that's what it will be.
One solution that we have really found for this in my house, because we have talked about Elizabeth Robinson before and this idea, and I'm like, oh, that is something I do. And man, once you hear it, you'll see it all the time. You'll be at the playground. You'll see the mom who's like, let's go. All right, come on, let's go.
1, 2, 3, I said, let's go. No, I really mean it. No, you're not going to get ice cream. Yeah.
Now, really, let's go. You're not going to get ice cream. Christmas is canceled. Right. You don't come now. Let's go.
Right now.
I love that everybody's got a Bronx accent.
20 minutes later.
And then you're like, oh, you're doing the thing. It's not the and I mean, I'm not saying it to, listen, if anyone watched me parent in public, they would have reams of notes for me, I'm sure. I'm not judging in a tough way, but it's like, oh, that's that thing that we all do. And
you're just teaching your kid to ignore you.
You're teaching your kid to ignore you. And one of the things that works really well with this is setting the rule beforehand. Amy would call it the lady. We had a timer, the duck. Oh, the duck's going off. It's time to go. And that's it. The duck rules the day. We don't do 10 versions. Even with my older kids now, we don't have buses in our town, so we have to drive our kids. And I think the first class starts at 8:03. And we found that we were having a lot of, it's 3 kids all getting out the door at the same time. And it's high school and middle school. So a little bit more like, do you have every single piece of paper? Do you have this? Do you have that? And I found myself yelling and yelling and yelling and yelling and yelling. And eventually I said, the car leaves at 7:50 every morning. Hope you're in the car. Otherwise you have to walk to school. You figure it out. It's 2.5 miles. It's real cold. You figure it out. And like, what was the consequence? I'm not exactly sure. I guess if they had said like, I guess I'm not ready, too bad. I mean, I wouldn't have really I don't know what would have happened, but we never kind of got there. Once I said the car leaves at 7:50, that's the only thing I'm saying. And then at 7:50, I say 7:50, walk downstairs, turn on the car. My husband often drives, get in the car. And then sometimes, you know, people are still running down the stairs at 7:51, 7:52, but they've really bought into this idea of the bus leaves at 7:50, not because you're on it, because that's what time it leaves. And when I find myself in the morning, you haven't gotten in the shower yet? What are you doing? I thought you wanted to take a shower. Blah, blah, blah. I find myself right away. I just say 7:50, just remember. And that's it. It's not my problem whether or not you take a shower or you get breakfast or whatever. Now, my kids are older and they're able to have more responsibility.
Right. They can put on their own shoes. Right.
But they're not easy and they're not organized and they're not, you know, marching off like the Captain Van Trapp's kids in the Sound of Music. But making a higher ask part of it can get you away from the 400 asks. And it can be dinner starts at 6. You know, I text all the kids. dinner is at 6:15, come to the table then. And we just start dinner. And for some weird reason, they're like, well, I can't be late for dinner. You started without me. And it takes it out of this power dynamic of like, I can show mom, or I don't have to listen until she calls for the 7th time because this game is really great. It's dinner starts at 6:15. We're going to start to eat.
It's at least removing the yelling because my kids are older now too. And I'm thinking about like the times when we leave for the airport and like we have to go, we were supposed to go 10 minutes ago, that kind of thing. And I just start leaving and waiting outside. And one of my kids is like, you can't do that because when like the other kid, they said that makes them want to go even slower when you're waiting outside. It's like, but I'm not waiting outside to make them go fast. Like I'm waiting outside to not be the jack in the box, right? Like I can't stand there and watch you pet the dog instead of putting your coat on. So I'm going to just be outside. I'll be ready. And my dad used to do the same thing. He drove me to school every morning and he'd be out in the driveway warming up the car. But I think it was also like he couldn't deal with it. Like, where's my shoes? Where's my homework? Like it just was, we have an agreement. I'm in the car. And I, most of the time would get out the door on time.
And I feel like really strongly this is a double solve. It's the solve of yelling less, making yourself less agitated, making yourself less crazy. But it is also the solve of your kid figuring out independence and time management. And, when you hover over your kid, and by you, to be clear, I mean me, hovering over, and now you do this, and now you put your shoes on, put your other shoe on, now grab your backpack. You are providing every step of that, and you are unknowingly setting up a system where if you don't provide every step of it, your kids really don't know how to do the steps on their own. And not for nothing, it is a huge life skill to know if I have to leave the house at 7:50, I need to set an alarm for 6:45. I need to get in the shower by 7 o'clock. I can lay in my warm, cozy bed. Then I have about 6 minutes to shower and get clean because then I got to brush my teeth. Then I got it. Time management, if someone is screaming every step at you the whole time, we have this at work all the time. Okay, tag you're it. I need you to figure out this problem. Get back to me with a solution, not I'm going to now walk you through every step of this problem. Otherwise, I should just do it myself.
You're solving the source of the stress and the tension that's making you yell because yelling was never going to solve it anyway. And so then, yes, you're solving the solution and you're yelling less along the way because you solved the stress, not the personality flaw that you yell too much.
Can I take a kind of random left on this and ask you a question that I genuinely don't know the answer to? I have a child who is extremely sensitive to yelling. And this child will say, like, I just can't stand being yelled at. And I was the same. I guess nobody loves being yelled at, but...
And what being yelled at is, your mileage may vary, right? I'm sure this kid would say some things you're yelling at me. It's like, I wasn't at all. But the perception is there. Okay.
So I'm a little lost in this idea right now that is that worth working on? I think of myself, and I'm going to say this is my daughter because I think gender is an issue in this conversation. Is developing any kind of toughness about yelling without, torturing someone, or I just worry sometimes that women are, at least in 2024, they're not born that way, whatever's going on with conditioning, that the intolerance of getting in trouble or being yelled at or having people be mad at you, it gets in the way at work and in other places and in dating. And I worry, but is that a variable or a constant? Can it be fixed? Is there any value in a conversation? Because we were just talking about it the other day, and I thought, I don't want you to go through life, again, like your mind goes to these big places, going through life, adjusting your behavior so that other people aren't mad at you or don't yell at you. Like often the person yelling at you is just a total jerk. But is there a way to build up a resistance, maybe especially in young girls, to say, you can take yelling. That person is a jerk. And I understand the sensitivity. The feeling, if I get yelled at, even in traffic, I hold on to it for like a month. I'm like, and then the person yelled at me and I wasn't even in the wrong. I had my blinker on all the time, Is it possible to build up a resistance to yelling, Amy?
Yeah, I guess so. But then you have this sort of like thick outer skin and then you're going to therapy for that. I think you're right, though. We have to teach our kids and especially our daughters, that sometimes people are just jerks and that somebody's display of emotion is not yours to fix. It doesn't get to win. And it's also, you don't have to stay until they understand, but you didn't mean it actually, or you're a good person actually, or you didn't see that they were trying to make a left turn actually. You can let them feel the way they feel and let that roll off your back and go about your day. You don't want that in your relationship with your kid. And in your own house, it's like, okay, if you really don't like being yelled at and you're perceiving, let's talk about the sources of stress. I don't want you to feel like you're being yelled at too much. Let's look at it. It's really about these same two things. It's about, I think your room's a mess and you think it's fine, right? That's what and the other thing is that you're late for soccer every week. Let's fix those two things. And then I think they could participate in that. And then in real life, I think you're right. And it's something that kids need to learn. I'm not sure that it's worse now than it used to be.
No, I don't think so. I just think I wish there was some way to like inoculate girls against the feeling of if someone's yelling, I must be wrong. But obviously I was not suggesting I'm going to yell more at my daughter so that she gets tougher. Like, it's not my style. I don't believe in it. But it did cross my mind. And it's something, maybe we can explore that a little bit in another episode.
Yeah. Are you mad at me?
Are you mad at me? And can we just take that question off of people's lists? And I don't know. I haven't been able to do it for myself. So I can't imagine.
All right. Well, I can't wait to have that conversation. Let me just say that.
That's going to be a good one.
Emily Edlin, the psychologist, had a couple of things to keep in mind about yelling. And I think this is very useful. Less for a solution than is this a problem and how do I know when it's a problem? I thought these were great. She says, keep in mind the content of the yelling does have more impact than the volume. Never insult, name call, demean, or threaten the safety of a child. That's verbal abuse. It doesn't matter what your volume is. Okay, and I think we tried to start by saying that today, and I hope we were clear about that. That, what did they call it? Intense verbal discipline is not what we're talking about. She also says that when it comes to yelling, frequency matters. If a parent or a child feels like yelling is the regular tone of the house, that is not a home of safety and connection. This is Emily speaking. She says, if anyone in the family feels like parents are, quote, always yelling, that actually needs to be addressed.
That is a great touchstone. Great touchstone. And I think there were probably points in my parenting journey where my kids would have said, Mom is always yelling.
Yeah.
I mean, I regret it. And I do think, listen, life is hard and parenting is hard. And I think my kids are okay. And I think that they will remember, a lot of happiness and stuff. But I wish I had yelled less. I wish I had.
The third thing that she says to keep in mind is watch your child. How do they look when you yell? If a child appears fearful, there's a problem. When a child's fear center becomes activated, it fires up a fight or flight nervous system, and that's not how we want our children to feel around us. If your child looks scared, that is a signal to immediately stop. No nuance in that, she says. And I mean, I can count on one hand the times that my kids actually looked scared. And I was like, oh, forget it. I'm sorry. And
it's Mr. Caligay. It's Mr. Caligay.
Right. The Mr. Caligay move, which, as we said, is better to not be the scary person, but definitely better to repair, to go back.
Take your teeth out and be like, you're fine.
Yeah, exactly. Mom's having a bad day, and boy, I took it out on you, and boy, was that unfair. And come here, can I give you a hug? I'm so sorry. I lost my temper, and I'm going to try to do better.
I've done that. I can't even count how many times. I'm really sorry. I definitely lost control there, guys. I'm sorry.
It's crucial when you lose your temper, and I think it really matters. And I do think that is a step that generations of yesteryear left behind. There was yelling, and then it all went back to neutral, like terse ceasefire.
Right.
Best, right? You're like, let me make sure there's nothing else out here. And it's that unpredictability that you don't want your kids to feel. So if you yell at them because you're a human being and you were frustrated, give them that repair and that sense of safety so they don't walk around with that primary unpredictability feel that is really where the problem starts.
Amy, we have solved it. We have solved
That was
yelling.
great.
Could have used this episode 15 years ago, but listen, better late than never.
Happy to Help is coming out next month, and I would love to do your book club. If you have a book club, if you'd like to create a book club to read Happy to Help, I would love to come do a Zoom or a Google Meet with your book club and talk about the book. Go to hello@amywilson.com, send an email to the team and tell us, that you'd like to have me come and talk to your book group, and we'll set it up. I would love to do it.
Oh my gosh, how much would you love to have Amy zooming into your living room? I'm going to set one up myself. And with that, folks, thanks so much for listening. Go pre-order Happy to Help, and we will talk to you next time.
Thanks, everybody.